Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Vosk of the VoskCoin YouTube channel, and today I'm building a top tier rig with top tier parts. It's going to be a lot of fun. So today we're using 12X 1080 Ti's. These are the Founder Edition. You're probably wondering, how'd you get all those? And I can't even find any Founder Editions right now. Well, these have been stripped down from old Trio rigs. As you see here, you can see that my farm at one point was composed entirely of Trio rigs, which I've worked on my density and just combining things into bigger rigs, because basically at that time that was all I could comfortably build. And now I'm working on building bigger and better rigs to condense these parts, and it's left me with a huge surplus of parts that have allowed me to scale reasonably well. To cover this is one of the top questions. I'm going to have a full parts list in the description, and I'm going to show you all the 1080 Ti's that I can find that are good prices right now. And there's a lot of debate on 1080 Ti this, 1080 Ti that. As far as I'm concerned on the topic of this subject, buy the cheapest 1080 Ti you can find. It's still going to be good, and yeah, there are better ones, you know, depending on this or that, but honestly, just go with the cheapest one you can find, in my opinion. We're going to be using the Mining Cave 12 GPU rig frame. This is the nicest 12 GPU rig frame out as far as I'm concerned. I absolutely love this frame. It's stackable. If you saw our build on the other 12X 1080 Ti rig, this is going to be stacked directly on top, and that is going to be a powerhouse rig corner in my mining shed. If you're wondering about the mining shed, you check on my last month update, or stick with me because I'm going to have a new update where I've changed around a lot of stuff on that soon. You may notice that Mining Cave stuff is normally out of stock. Here's an email. You can contact them, set up a pre-order, and oftentimes they accept crypto as payment, so you know they're willing to work with you here, be a little flexible. They're a pretty progressive company as far as I'm concerned. I bought stuff from them with Ethereum in the past, and honestly that's pretty cool. So if you notice, I've already got some parts on here. Why? Well, it's because this was the rig I was going to build out the modular 1070 Ti, but I decided to take those cards and showcase what that Riserless 8 GPU motherboard can do. So if you haven't seen that video, check that one out and see where those cards went. So if you're wondering about putting these pieces on, you can check out my original 1080 Ti build video, which you can see what that looks like there. Just go to VoskCoin, search on the channel, or to re-reference that video on the modular mining rig build, you can check that one out. And I go over really in depth a lot of stuff that I don't always cover. So I'm gonna go over putting the CPU in, the RAM, all that stuff with these with this motherboard, which is out of stock right now everywhere. So I'm gonna drop some links for where you can normally find it in the description. But I mean, I'm seeing these go for over $200, $300, which is just insane. I'm glad I bought a couple extra. And so anyway, this motherboard, you're gonna need to wrap the little connection right here, PCIe, that goes into your board. Otherwise, these can touch each other and short out due to this genius design. But either way, it's fine, and you'll be good to go. So let's get to the build. I'm gonna power everything I need with the EVGA 750 watt. I've got a ton of these because these are what I use in all my Trio builds. And really it's just an awesome power supply, so I'm glad that I have a ton of these. And it's gonna work perfect for me here to power all of the risers and all of the board components. On the board, we've got a G4400 Crucial Ballistics, 2400 DDR4 RAM, 4 GB. We've got, you know, just risers and the ASRock H110 Pro BTC Plus board. And that's pretty much it. There's an add to PSU that comes on this frame. I'm just gonna leave it there because I'll mess up this little board if I try to take it out. But I'm not gonna be using that because I'm going to be using the 750 watt for everything except the cards. And the cards are gonna be powered by a 2400 watt server PSU. So I know what you're thinking, where do I get one of those? Honestly, you're gonna have to work hard to find one because they're sold out everywhere. I'm lucky I bought an extra one and I had this on hand. I'm just freaking stoked about it. I almost broke it right there. Why is this? That's a little wiggly. I don't know. Maybe it's lightly used. Anyway, so I'm really lucky I have this because Parallel Miner's been out of stock. I've heard rumors that these are going to be discontinued. So I don't know. Maybe you can find it on eBay. You can find it used on the forum, say the computer hardware section of Bitcoin Talk. I get a lot of stuff out of there. So it's going to be a little expensive. But I don't want to make a build that you guys cannot replicate. So instead of using these two power supplies I have right here, you could use two EVGA 1600 watt power supplies, which is really more than you would need. You could also get away with using like an EVGA 1600 watt and an EVGA 1200 watt. Probably. I didn't run the exact numbers on that, but you'd probably be fine with that. Either way, that's gonna be like $400 to $800-ish in power supplies. I mean, really, you're probably gonna be spending on average around like 600 to 800, 900 bucks if you're gonna use those ATX power supplies. All right, so maybe the worst build video ever. I've been talking so much and I haven't really built anything. Or maybe, you know, you liked some of the comments I said. I don't know. Let me know below in the comments section. So to hold these power supplies down, I've got this Velcro. I just grab it right off of Amazon. It's just, I'll have the link below again. Industrial strength, heavy duty stick-on. This comes with a 4-strip pack, holds up to 10 pounds, and I mean, obviously I'm not gonna be throwing my rig around, so I'm not too worried about that stuff. And you know, we got the sticky side and whatever. It comes with adhesive, peel off, 3M style. So we're gonna need 2 pieces because I'm gonna stick both power supplies on. Why am I gonna do that? Well, very simple, because if you look at the frame, you'll see this bracket right here. And I've already unscrewed it. All right. With the bracket, you'll see it's got these holes in it. So it's stationed like this on the frame, which is actually very, very cool and a nice feature of this frame. So you can come up here and you can mount your ATX PSUs right into it. If you, again, not to reference that video for the 3rd time, but in that I mounted the 1200 watt EVGA in there, and it was set up for me to mount a second 1200 watt EVGA to power these 2nd tier cards that I was going to add later on. So a very cool feature. However, it's not going to work with my server PSU I've got here. You know, it's totally different design. Simple solution, like why stress about it? I'm not gonna worry about fabbing like another frame, you know, I don't have time for that, man. What we're gonna do is we're gonna slap some Velcro on there. I've tested this, you can hold your rig upside down, it's not gonna fall off, and boom, it's gonna work. So it's good to hold it in your farm, it's good to hold it if you're gonna ship it, resell, whatever you need to do, which I'm also gonna do on the EVGA 750 watt. So I've already attached the breakout boards to the server PSU. If you're not familiar with breakout boards, they are built like this and they simply slide on to the server PSU. So you're just gonna, you know, carefully make sure it's lined up properly and push it on there. You'll know it's nice and it's nice and snug. In regards to the server PSU, it exhausts out the back. So these are the exhaust fans that's gonna pull all the air through. So I don't want that going into my rig. So I'm gonna mount it just like this, as far over as I can and as far up as I can. So it's gonna push into the Add to PSU. I could get a little bit of a better mount if I took the Add to PSU out, but what if I'm gonna change the rig in the future and it looks nice? I'm just gonna leave it there. So I'm gonna take a quick measurement to just find the center of the server PSU, which is where I'm gonna mount the Velcro. Let's see, it's about 9 inches, 22, 23 centimeters maybe. So I'm just gonna come down here to 4.5 inches, which is actually gonna put me like right on that piece right there, which would be easy to see and remember. So I just made a small imperfection on the frame so that I may easily see where I want to mount this. The metal has a tendency to be a little bit higher than the board once it gets a little bit of weight on it. So I'm gonna put the Velcro going on to the side to ensure, you know, I get full coverage there. Really, you should consider using 2 pieces of Velcro here if you want to be a little OCD about it, but I'm not worried about it. So I'm just gonna use 1, which I'm gonna try to center the best I can. So I'm just gonna put it up here so you guys can see. Got that centered the best I can right there on the frame, and then I'm gonna try to center this so that this makes sense at all, which is gonna put me right about here. So that's firmly fastened. If you're wondering about the heat that this could make to loosen, degrade, destroy the adhesive, yeah, it's certainly possible. Yeah, hardware mounting would be a better solution, but my other one still works, so I'm gonna continue doing it like this. So I'm not gonna go crazy pushing this on, making sure it's snug and breaking something. I'm just gonna, you know, give it a little bit of, try to disperse the pressure, firm, and it's good enough, good enough. So what are we gonna do about the ATX PSU? Well, if you watched the other video, you'll notice that I wanted to mount it like this, but this is gonna interfere with this, so it needs to go like this. And this is what we're gonna end up with. So I'm gonna push it back as far as I can here, and I'm just gonna mount the Velcro, not as far back because this rests completely on the actual cardboard board in the middle of the rig. So I'm going to just put this in the center of this power supply, and it's going to be a little bit of a better function where you definitely need one on this PSU. Before I hook this up and make it harder to see, I want to talk about the connections. I've already got them all on here. I think this is going to make it easier to actually run the wires. Every plug I need is connected except for the Molex, which I'll go over that in a second. So I've got the motherboard cable, obviously. That's going to be critical. I've got a CPU cable, which I'm going to need. And then I've got the VGA cords. So I've got 2 VGA cables that are 6 plus 2 plus 6, which look like this. Very, you know, the bread and butter of the EVGA power supplies. So I've got 2 of these connected, and then I've got 1 6-pin connected, or it's a 6 plus 2, I'm sorry, but it's a single one. It's not one of the multiple ones. And on that, I have a PCIe splitter. So I've got a 6-pin one here. Really 8 pins are better, but I have the 6 pins, so I'm gonna run with that. And it gives me 2 6 plus 2 pins. This is gonna be very important because I'm powering 6 of the risers with these VGA cables. So each of these 6 pins is going to plug directly into the PCIe riser. And then I've got SATA adapters on the other 6 risers. And I've got 3 SATA cables hooked in over here. What does that mean? Well, yeah, I'm comfortable using SATA. With this, I'm going to plug 2 of these connections into the risers. So 1 SATA cable is going to again power 2 risers. With this, it's going to allow me to properly power everything I need safely. Never use 1 SATA cable to power more than 2 risers. You start powering 3, you're really pushing it. Anything more than that, if you use any kind of crazy adapters, you're probably going to blow up. The Molex connection. I'm using 1 Molex cable to plug into both of these connections on the board. You can actually turn this off in the BIOS to bypass this at your own risk, but I'm just using this 1 Molex connection or cable to plug into both of these connections. I went ahead and did it like this, and I have the cable just set up like this. It's going to make it a little bit easier to manage the wire and plug it right into the power supply. So the 750 watt is going to take up the majority of this area, so I'm just going to try to find a center piece. Pretty much just like this. See, I mean, I'm going to say it's center, right? Close enough. Rub it in, rub it down, looking good. Now I've got the Velcro piece to attach onto the PSU. I'm going to double check the fitment by just moving this in here. So I'm going to be about this far back from the end of the PSU, and as far as the middle goes, it's pretty centered, pretty much straight. Again, you don't have to go too crazy with something like Velcro. So I went ahead and positioned it in there. You can see pulling pretty hard. It's nice and snug. It's what we need. So let's talk wires. I ran the other 6 PCIe cables, plugged them directly into the board, and I ran them through one of the 2 pre-drilled holes on this mining cave rig frame. And so I ran them on the back one. You can see I've just shot them out here on the bottom, and I tried to orient it so basically the cable with the most length would be the farthest out to, you know, just have the least amount of slack and have the wire look good. I zip tied them right here. Still have a little bit of an octopus look going on. Don't mind all these cables that haven't been dealt with yet. That's what we're dealing with. So I did that. 2 zip ties up top, basically right here near the board, and another one right here just to kind of keep it tidy. My goal in this build, as opposed to my last 1080 Ti build, which I'm actually going to go back through and redo all the wiring. Next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the VGA cables down to the bottom shelf. So I ran the 3 VGA cables down, and you can see I used the splitter to plug into these far 2, and then I used the other 2 cables, which have basically 2 more 6 pins available on there, to plug into each riser. Simple as that. I bundled up the wires, you know, nothing crazy, nothing super technical. I basically just bundled up the wires, and I zip tied them together with the riser cables to just give me a nice clean function right here. Remember that all your hot air on these cards is going to be exhausted that way, especially because we're using blower cards. So having these in a big conglomeration right here is no big deal. What is going on here? Well, we took the 3 SATA connections and we plugged them in up here. So 1 SATA cable, 2 risers. You'll notice, we just plugged everything in, and I just took 2 big zip ties, which I got a link to the zip ties I use in the description. I just made a bundle down here, and I made a bundle here to just make this, you know, as tight as I can. I don't get ridiculously tight, and you know, these wires have the possibility to get a little bit hot, so don't get ridiculous when you're tightening down the zip tie, but again, it makes for a much cleaner product. So nothing crazy here. There's no crazy advice I can give you other than just, you know, take your time and try to route it effectively as you can. I normally run the wires inside out, so like my farthest SATA cable down here, I took out here, my closest one I put here, and I basically just double it back. And what I mean by that is I basically just fold it over and collapse that wire on itself to make it essentially shorter. The CPU cable, which I haven't covered yet, it's right here by the motherboard, so it's right here, and I ran it along the length of the motherboard, and it just pops out over here and plugs in. It's about as clean as I can get that as well. This rig frame gets pretty tight pretty fast, mainly on the bottom rack. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount the cards on the bottom rack, and then I'm going to run the power cables, which again, it's going to be powered, you know, server PSU style. I'm going to add splitters to this, so I'll explain that in a second, but I'm going to go ahead, set these cards up on the bottom, and run the power cables to them. Alright, the cards are in there and they're mounted. I use this attached drill bit. This came with this rig frame, and I got another one with my last rig frame. I don't know if this comes with every 12 quart rig frame from them, so you know, don't quote me here, but it's a magnetic little drill bit, and it's super useful to get in that tight zone. It is just perfect. I'm sure there's like a cheap option for them, you know, effective, not cheap in a bad way, to get these out there and give everyone just an easy solution so you're not frustrated trying to get, you know, just say even this is a smaller screwdriver, get this in there, you're gonna get pissed. As far as the cables, ran them down there through the pre-drilled hole that, you know, comes on the frame, and attach the splitter on the bottom end, and just, you know, line the cards up and attach them. I tried to basically do a wraparound method where I was working the cables outside in, and basically just having the cables double back over the entire top of the card. This gave me just a simple, easy solution, which enabled me to get relatively clean wire management and not spend the rest of my life working on this. So now I'm gonna go ahead and mount the top cards, and you know, we're kind of closing in on the actual physical part of the build, so this is getting exciting. You'll notice that these risers have a locking mechanism right here. Make sure to just slide it all the way out so you can mount the card, and then once the card's mounted, you can just come right here and slide that up. You hear it click, and you know it's properly mounted. So now I've mounted the cards. I used the supplied screws to just mount them right into the mounting holes, and I have everything set up except for the power to them. So I have 2 identical breakout boards, and I'm powering the same amount of cards. Everything is exactly the same. 6 cards on top, 6 cards on the bottom. I moved my hand the opposite way, so just ignore that. And basically what that means is I'm going to need 6 PCIe cables, and I'm just going to need to come on through here, route them. We're going to use a splitter on each one. So this is a 6 pin to 2x 6 plus 2 pin. Basically that means that I can take this and just slide it on here, or actually it goes on the other side. I'm going to slide it on there. It's going to give me an 8 pin. I zip tied this piece back to make it clean, and then this is going to give me the 6 pin. All these cards I'm using today are 8 pin plus 6 pin. If you have a 2x 8 pin, well, this would still work excellent. You just wouldn't zip tie this back, and you would utilize 2 of the actual 8 pins. If you look closely at the board, you'll see I have 8 pin and 8 pin. So what I've done is I've taken the PCIe cable, and I'm just doing basically an L and then a reverse L over here, just because I think that looks kind of pretty or whatever. And that's how I'm going to run these cables. I'm going to run them outside in. What I mean by that is I'm going to take this cable and basically double it back. When I say double it back, I mean kind of like this, and I'm just going to go ahead and plug it here. I'm not exactly sure the method that I want to run these cables. I think I may do this. I think this is going to be the cleanest. So I'm going to do this, and then the next one over would probably be this one right below it. And I'll just angle this up through here and do that. And I think that's going to give me the cleanest wires. I ran these first just because it makes it a little bit easier to manage. Alright, so we're all mounted up. If you notice, I try to be as creative with the wiring as I could be, and just effective, and just have it look good. I want to say that this is one of the nicer rigs I've put together. Again, I'm always open to your feedback. Drop comments below, let me know what I could have done better. what I could improve on, especially wire management. I'm not OCD, but I would say I'm a perfectionist, and I'm always trying to improve. And if you look at this and you look at my last 12 card build, the last 1080 Ti build, it's a world of a difference. So that's all I can ever ask just for myself, is always be improving. One thing I did like to focus on was keeping the wires off of the server PSU, because I am going to be running it at basically full capacity, which is okay on a server PSU, in my opinion. And so with that, I mounted the cables to the GPU brackets basically, just with zip ties, and that way I have space between the cables and the actual server PSU everywhere. I've mounted it on the bracket here, and then I actually mounted the wires to themselves here, which got them completely off, and then they're also mounted to the second bracket. So if you're interested, what is this gonna mine? Well, I'm a big equihash guy. There's only so much you can follow in the crypto space. It's crazy, it's always changing. So I, built this rig to mine ZenCash, and I'm certainly going to mine ZenCash, but I'm not blind. I will say that obviously Z Classic is going through a massive pump right now. I mean, honestly, insane. At one point it was up 3,000% in the last 7 days. Honestly, it's ridiculous. So there's the whole Z Classic and the Bitcoin private, I think, the BTCP, which is going to be 1-for-1 swap on the Z Classic chain. Interesting. The hash rate is ridiculously jacked now. Z Classic hash rate used to be like 2, 3, 4, 5 mega hash network hash rate. And last I checked, it was around 100. Insane. And then there's Hush, which has been on a crazy pump. Went all the way up to like $8. I think it's around 7 or something right now. Again, another opportunity there. There's always Bitcoin Gold, which a lot of debate on. Sort of a sketchy, one of the sketchier Bitcoins, I guess you could say. But again, nonetheless, another coin to mine. And of course, Zcash, the biggest equihash coin around. I have a whole video on setting up SMOS. If you look at this video, I go over setting up NVIDIA cards with SMOS. I think I'm even using 1080 Ti's and that. My overclock settings, I'm gonna update this in a second once I get this rig going, but I'm hoping to be using 200 core, 500 memory, and 200 watts of power. So plus 200 core, plus 500 memory, and 200 watt power limit per card. SMOS is Linux. I use Linux on all my builds. I'm not going to be using the DSTM miner, because until he pushes out an update that doesn't make each graphics card establish its own connection, then it's not stable with 12 cards. Therefore, I'm going to be using EWBF. EWBF is absolutely stable with my other 12 card rig. So that's what we're going to be at in that regard. So you can watch my DSTM tutorial with SMOS if you're curious about it, or you want to put on, say, a 6 card rig. All my 6 cards are on DSTM. However, I have had a ton of stability issues using it with the 12 card, so I hash away on EWBF. My electric in my garage isn't set up to run this. I need 240 volt, which I don't have that wired up right now. I'm going to get that back soon, so stick with me for that. But anyway, I'm going to head over to the mining shed, get this all hooked up, and start running some numbers and see where we're at. Alright guys, so we are up and we are hashing away. Over 8,400 souls on average. That's crazy. That's with a 200 core overclock, plus 200, plus 180 memory, and I'm running at 200 watts. So we're running ultra efficient and really crushing the numbers. The 1080 Ti may not be the most efficient card on equihash. Say, for example, the 1070 Ti, which we've got some videos on, like that one. However, the 1080 Ti is the absolute biggest workhorse and the most dense. So you lose a little bit of efficiency, but you save money on, say, extra motherboards, RAM, CPUs, risers, all those other parts that you need to basically build another rig. So, depends where you want to place your bets. But the 1080 Ti on mine are running on average 3.5 souls per watt or greater, because I run them on an efficient setting. This rig could be cranked up to have some kind of cool epic soul count for, epic thumbnail clickbait, but it's not what I'm about. What I'm about is bringing you what I'm realistically going to do. And I'm going to run these at 200 watts because that's one of the sweetest spots that I've found. I will say that these settings have not been tested extensively yet. It's been running for about an hour at this point. And again, 200 core, 180 memory, 200 watts, and averaging over 8,400 souls. I said it again because basically I'm impressed. And this is on equihash, and specifically I'm mining ZenCash. I know we talked earlier about all the other options we could mine. Absolutely, we could absolutely mine those. But today, I'm just gonna focus on what I know, what I believe in, and where I wanna place my bets there. So again, I spread my rigs out over a couple coins, but I always like to benchmark on the same stuff on the same servers. So I kind of know a relative figure what to expect, where I'm at, and if something's weird, I don't want to have a new variable in the equation. If I'm having an issue, I'm not connecting to ZHash, well, it's probably the miner because I have 4 other miners already connected to ZHash. Just an example, or Supernova or whatever pool you're mining with. If you're wondering about my exact settings, those are going to be all in the description below. The OC settings, the server settings, everything you need to do to get your rig up to speed. As always, I'm here to make fun, interesting, informative tutorials. If there's something in this video that I didn't cover that you wanted to see or you want me to talk about more or see more of, please let me know and I'll be glad to make that happen. Also, I have a Discord server up now, so come by, step in, and you know, come join the fun. It's been super active. It's actually been a lot of fun. That's where I've been spending the most time hanging out, when I can dedicate my time to just, you know, having fun really. And that's where I've been. And we also have a cool social ranking up system, but whatever, I won't go on and on. Again, permanent invite link below. I would say I paid about $9,000 for this rig. Most of these parts were purchased at cheaper prices. One thing I don't always talk about is ROI. It's a very subjective thing, and I don't even worry about it because I'm focused. When I say I don't worry about it, that doesn't mean that I don't worry about making my money back. I absolutely worry about it, and it's one of the biggest stresses in my life. However, I will say that basing all your decisions and thoughts off an online profit calculator may not be the best bet. What you really want to do is talk to some people in the game, or even just follow my content on the channel, because I'm living, doing this every day. Look at the returns. Anyway, let's talk the ROI, let's talk the numbers. So again, about 9 grand on the parts. In today's prices, it'd be more like 10 to 11 grand. You know, based on everything. I got some of these 1080 Ti's for 600 bucks, which is just crazy because it's hard to find a 1080 Ti for $720 now. Anyway, my point is I'm gonna have all the good 1080 Ti's I can find in the link below, and I wouldn't hesitate to mix and match brands of 1080 Ti's. Don't worry too much about that. I don't want to go on about ROI. Honestly, it bores me. I ROI all my rigs in about 3 to 4 months or less on average. I've been doing this all year, and all these profit calculators, they can't calculate the fact that these coins are probably going to double in the next couple months. Granted, they could be cut in half. Crypto's volatile, but what's the trend? Up, up, up. So make your money back, cash out, and then it's all gold from there. You know, take a small profit every month, pay your electric bill if you want to do that, and then just keep everything. At that point, everything you're making is essentially free. Once you make your money back, everything's free. You know what I have? Money printing machines, digital money printing machines. That's why I love mining. I've got assets that produce assets, an asset producing asset. It's a nice asset. So there you have it, guys. Been promising Tails that I'll go play some ball with her. She's feeling pretty good today if you're worried about the update. And it's a good day. You know, there's good days, there's bad days. Today's a good day, so that's, you know, exciting and all I can hope and ask for. And yeah, ready for the cinematic closer, and to make sure you subscribe to the VoskCoin YouTube channel. Me too. See you next time, guys.